Hey guys, thanks for coming out. Really excited about today. Yesterday was awesome. Had some amazing people come up. Just equally as excited about all the conversations we're gonna have. I really feel like this is all really important, things that we need to hear and cutting edge of what these passionate guys are doing. So we got Brian Malin from Vital Garden Supply, my good friend, the man who taught me how to grow organically. True story. My man, he convinced me. He's like, dude, you got to do it this way. Trust me. So a lot of these guys are my friends for many years as well. So Brian, take it away, man.
Appreciate you, Mario. Welcome everybody to what are the benefits of organic material in extraction panel. Big thanks to Mario and Voice of the Plant for putting this all together. Most of all, I'm Brian Malin. Like Mario said, I'm founder of Vital Garden Supply. I was a founder of Pacific Reserve also, and I also have a consulting and operating company called Optimal Ag Solutions. I've studied soil science extensively. I've spent some time with the guru Elaine Ingham, the queen of beneficial biology and compost tea, and I'm super passionate about helping growers improve the quality of resin. So this panel is really exciting for me. We got some amazing extraction artists here, and guys have been doing it a long time, and I really respect. So I'm going to pass these mics out and let them introduce themselves. And let's start with you, Tony.
Tony Verzura, founder, CEO of Blue River Terps. Been in the industry about 28 years, and been in a little bit of everything. But I stayed in my lane, solventless. Was early on the terp game, separating terpenes and making hash with a hair iron. And the brand evolved into the first solventless dispensaries in Boston and Massachusetts. Product maker over the years, and try to help as many patients, growers, home growers, through education platforms and product licensing.
Alex Queupumil. I'm a CEO and founder of Critical Concentrates. We've been operating in California since 2013, and now we're primarily focused on the New York market. Been doing BHO, hydrocarbon extraction since 2013, and in 2019, really did a deep dive into solventless as well. So, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
My name is Marc Hammond. I'm co-founder of Kalya Extracts and the director of product development at Cannabis. We have a 4-acre living soil farm down in Monterey County, and also specialize in hydrocarbon and making some fire rosin.
My name is Dorian Schraner. I'm the founder of Beezle Extracts, and we've been around since 2012. I actually went to school for organic agriculture, worked in hydroponics for a long time, and then went into extraction world. We're currently in California and Maryland, and soon to be Illinois.
Awesome. What a great bunch of guys we have here to share our knowledge with. Well, let's get right to it. I know this is a question that a lot of people are wondering, and there's a lot of back and forth about. Now that cannabis is a business, and lots of people have bounced around with what makes financial sense. We see some grower facilities scaling back and using, cheaper ingredients like salt fertilizers and not using, the higher end stuff to try to get a higher yield for less dollar. But at the end of the day, we've started to see on the solventless side, organic cultivation brings out higher yields in resin. So my question is, what have you noticed in the yield department as far as resin production in organic facilities versus synthetic? Go ahead, Tony.
Okay, so we're probably about 285,000 pounds or more that we've washed, I would say. Of that, sun-grown greenhouse, indoor ranges from metal highlights, HPSs, LEDs, assisted living greenhouses. So I've seen like a wide spectrum of how resin's grown, as well as in different places in the world, different elevation heights, microclimates. We always try to like point to like different sources of where where the sweet spot is, but I think it comes down to understanding the plant's needs based on the environment and the light source. So utilizing the sun itself, and that as an energy source, and what we as humans understand in our world of physics, in our small brain of what we can understand. We see light, we see energy, we see photosynthesis, but there's so much more going on there with natural light. The movement of the light itself, and so there's an organic daily exercise and dance between the plant, the resin, and the sun. So if you took the sun and you said, I have this whole organic thing figured out, and I'm going to synthesize what I think the plant needs, that means you're smarter than anyone else in the world. You're smarter than anyone, because you could never possibly synthesize the responsiveness to the actual sun and the energy source to this, what the plant would need. So I think the organic approach is providing, you know, a medium, a soil medium, a living soil, whether it's no-till, microisms, different things that are in the actual soil that kind of give the plant a choice of its nutrients and how it wants to absorb it based on its environment and the light source itself. So when I've seen organic living soil, sun-grown, in that responsive type of environment, the resin's always much higher. It's almost as if the trichome resin production itself has a inflated head, if you will, from the different oil production, terpenoids, different things that are being produced through the actual stalk and into the head. So I've never seen yet, out of all of that experience, anyone take it to the indoor level and figure out how to replicate that in a liquid-based organic with like an LED or supplemental light. It's always going to not hit the yields. So you might be able to get a 4%, 4.5% on something indoor if you really have it dialed in. But I've seen that same plant in the hands of a single source grower and hash maker that'll hit 6.5 every time, you know? So I think that it's a kind of loaded question because it comes down to some other things, but that, in my experience, there isn't anything different. And when I look at Blue River that was in the West Coast and the East Coast, it's hard not to admit that the Terps from California, from Northern California, are superior to anything indoor.
You hear that, folks?
Yeah, just to echo what Tony said, I think that it's really obvious when you do extensive extraction that, you know, organic material really is superior to any kind of salt-grown flower. And I mean, there's definitely a place for it in the market. There's a place for, you know, the Athenas and, you know, all of the salts that are really popular now for cultivation. Sure, I mean, it does make great flour, but for concentrates, it's really hard to compare anything salt-grown compared to something that's grown organically. We had from personal experience, we had a cut of strawberry banana a few years ago, and we had it cultivating in our outdoor cultivation, and it would hit over 4% every single time. Whereas when we put in our indoor cultivation and we were feeding it, you know, I think at that time we weren't doing Athena, we were doing not Advanced. What's that salt one that was really popular before? Christian over here knows. I'm looking at him. But anyways, the point is that when we're using just a 3-part nutrient to grow the same strain that we were ourselves growing in our outdoor cultivation, we were hitting, you know, maybe 2.5% at the very, very best. And to me, it was always surprising that something that's grown indoors with better control of your climate wouldn't hit the yields you're going to get from an outdoor cultivation. But it's just, it really speaks volumes to, you know, how important organic cultivation is, because, you know, when the plant is, you know, in an organic environment, it's going to uptake the things that it's going to want, you know, it's going to thrive on. It's going to, you know, it's going to be more natural, right, at the end of the day. And those micronutrients, it's hard to state like the importance of it, and in development of the trichomes and the oils, side by side, there's no comparison. I just want to add one last little thing, but one of the most surprising things for me early on when I started dabbing like really, really high quality concentrates was, I mean, I remember buying stuff from a really, really super high reputable company, and I remember I dabbed it and it tasted exactly like you know, just like the 3-part nutrient that I literally smelled just like the, you know, the water as I prepared it. So that smell that the water had, I mean, I tasted it in the dab, and I think from that day forward, something's in me just changed. I'm like, it has to be organic. I don't want to fucking taste, you know, fucking a 3-part nutrient when I'm dabbing concentrates.
Honestly, I really resonate with that last part, Alex. We are able to process right around 2,500 pounds a week through hydrocarbon, and we do around 3,000 kilos a month through our solventless extraction. And through that, we're able to get a really good sample size and be able to see the differentiation between organic and salt-based cultivation. And right away, one thing my guys in the wash will notice is there's a different feel to the resin. You know, they say it has a more almost like a viscous, oily feel. And there's more of a fragrance coming off of that as well. The washroom will be very loud in terps. And so right off of there's just some visual indications, because the testing is so minimal right now. Most of the testing that's been done has been backed by major nutrient companies that'll point towards the benefits of their products. But the testing that we have seen just by peer product subject matter experts is that when you do large sample sizes, we're seeing that nutrient taste throughout a lot of the most reputable indoor cultivators in our industry. And so that's one thing I love to point out. But as far as the yield goes too, we run, you know, a lot of comparable, if not the similar cuts to some of these major indoor cultivators as well. And we'll see around a 15 to 18% increase on average over these massive sample sizes through organic cultivation.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the biggest thing for me is it completely changes the conversation of how you're cultivating. Like, traditionally it's been for biomass and bag appeal, right? Where we're kind of now cultivating for terpene content and resin glands. And in side-by-side comparisons, like they were alluding to, we've seen way higher yields, even if there's less biomass per, you know, yield on a light. So it really comes down to the quality of the overall resin and what that's producing. And to kind of echo what Tony said, you know, I think you look at a lot of nutrient plans, a lot of salt, like feed charts, they always try to generalize certain peaks and certain like feeding regimens. Like there's always a week 4 phos peak, right? And they try to hit it, but most genetics and most things you're growing don't have those same needs, you know, when you're trying to generalize like that. So allowing, you know, that soil microbiome to actually have the conversation through like exudates through the roots, and that whole thing really frees up what the plant needs when it needs it and kind of takes the guessing out of it. So I think at the end of the day, you're letting that conversation happen a lot more, and at the end, you're, you know, getting all the benefits that these guys have mentioned. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the microbes, Dorian, because I kind of feel like the one thing, even if somebody was growing with some salts and maybe it was a hybrid type situation, I think the microbes is something that a lot of people are like not taking into consideration, because, you know, chemistry is great and all, but chemistry at the end of the day doesn't really work unless there's some biology. You need microbes to break down those chemicals or salts or whatever form that they are in. And microbes are something that's overlooked, and everybody needs to incorporate some microbial products into their cultivation. Obviously, I'm going to encourage more organic 100%, but even if there is a salt, a base used or something like that, getting some microbes into that is going to help your salt even go further. Okay, so we talked about the yield as far as like how much resin you get. Now, this is something I think Tony's going to have a lot of experience with. As far as terpene content, Okay, so sure, somebody may have some great giant facility and they pump out so much product and they're able to make tons of rosin, and maybe the yield's decent as far as the amount of rosin, but what about the terpene content and the flavors, and what do you see in that field compared from synthetic versus organic?
So, in my experience, I started Blue River as like extracting just solventless terpenes from the plant out of kind of need, like you were telling your story, is like I really didn't want anyone using distillate and fake terps and putting that into their lungs like a long time ago. So I was inspired to like, well, maybe I can provide cannabis-derived terpenes that were in its pure form, which was highly controversial at the time. And I eventually retracted doing this just because I also don't believe in spray packs and spraying weed and spraying containers, which I didn't realize that was where it was going to go. But that being said,
Lord have mercy.
I didn't contribute any further past like 2018 or 19. Anyway, that being said, I did run a lot of different terpenes, and from greenhouses and outdoor, and different farmers from Humboldt, Northern California, and I always based their grow technique on the yield of terpenes. So, and I was always running whole plant, untrimmed tops. That was what I was into, and most of them were all home grow. You know, everyone's flexing, unicorn tiers, organic, living soil for 80 years, you know, the whole 9 yards. So everyone's like bringing their A game. But extracting terpenes, I found genetics played a huge role in it, right? But the soil and what they were doing, if they used lime, some different people use different things in their soil. And the average, let's say, whole plant pound, like the types of inputs that I'm talking about, you would see like 12, 13 milliliters a pound, which kind of makes sense because like the average flower is 1.2, 1.4. Once in a while you'd see like, you know, something that was 15, and then you would see like 22, 25, 30 mils a pound. So that like raises the eyebrows of like, how does this person all of a sudden just like off the Richter scale? And it was always like the deeper conversations, and they were like really took the soil and what they were doing extremely seriously. So it wasn't like one of their strains hit these. It was like every time this came from them, it happened. And that's kind of like how I met you, in fact, because you were on that same tip, like, hey, it's vital, organic, you know, micronutrients, and people weren't really looking at this. This all, in my opinion, builds immunity. And so when we're talking about the plant itself, the plant needs to have strong immunity. And I think that's why in organic type of bases and soils and things like this that are outside, everyone's focused on cannabinoids, terpenes, but it's immunity. And that immunity system needs to be very strong. And so same thing with humans. If we took microbes off the human body, we'd all die. And so this is like extremely important for that. And that benefit factor of like indoor, like, I hate to say this, I don't have any affiliation with any nutrient companies, but the cardboard terps of like Athena, Advanced Nutrients, the same type of strain in an indoor environment on that type of regimen was like 3 mils, 4 mils, like so bad that you have to like look yourself in the mirror before you look at the client and go, I don't know what happened here. I feel terrible, but I know it's not me because this is science. I think it's you. I'm not sure, but I believe it's you, whatever you're doing. And so those conversations were hard to have, but
I think all you guys have had to have these conversations with farmers over the years.
But we're hard on ourselves at
a
first,
little bit too.
right? We're hard on ourselves first. We go through all the checkpoints. Did we fuck up here? Did this thing thaw out? Did the freeze? You go through all your checkpoints. You're like, okay, it's not me. It must be you. And then, and you're like, what are you growing in Rockville? What are we doing here? You know? But it was significant amount of difference in the terpene world. Significant amount of difference.
Even more so than the yield of resin, you think, huh?
Well, and I think it's also
Probably a correlation
You
there.
kind of have to understand like how terpenes form in the plant. It's at the surface. It's in bulbous heads. 40%, 60% of it's in the heads, in the resin glands, but there are terpenes throughout the plant. And so like that's another conversation. But overall, the extraction that I was doing was from whole plant. So it grabbed every single terpene that's in the entire plant in one shot. So it counted for everything that was there. So it's the whole plant. It's the whole health of the plant.
Got it.
Yeah, I think Tony just really said it best. There's really just no comparison. What I will add to it is that it's interesting to see the expression of the plant changing from place to place where you grow it. I mean, California has very rich clay soils, are very high in nutrients, and you grow the same plants in California. We've taken the same genetics with Christian over here, who's sitting in the front. We've taken them to New York, and we grow it in the dark black soils of upstate New York. And all of a sudden, the same genetics that had a particular terp profile in California have a slightly different profile in New York, and it's noticeable. I mean, you notice it on, you have a batch of the same strain that you're very familiar with, and then all of a sudden there's something there that's different. The uptake of the plant it's always surprising how it changes based on what you feed it. And I mean, it's just obvious I know it's obvious to all of us up here that when you feed it salts, it tastes like the salts, and that's not really what I think creates the best products. But yeah.
100%. Honestly, kind of talk about what Brian's point was. When we have seen the testing, not only are we seeing higher percentages of terpenes, but also using companies like Abstracts, we've seen higher percentages of cannaflavins, flavonoids, esters, and other compounds that produce nuances of flavors that high-level consumers are looking for. So for us, it's pretty much an obvious difference. Our theory behind that is because something Dorian touched on earlier, when the plant exudates, it basically produces a bacteria that creates this symbiotic relationship with the soil around it. And it's able to self-regulate and also uptake nutrients in an optimal level. And also we're talking micronutrients and other compounds that are going to produce these types of nuances and other flavonoids that we're talking about.
No, and I think, the beautiful thing about working with the plant that we do is the phenotypic variants and the smells and the flavors that we can get from the vast gene pool that's available is absolutely ridiculous. From garlic funk to cat piss to tangy to all this shit. So when we start using nutrients and sweet and botanicare and all this other shit, we're just masking what could naturally be there. So I feel like it's more of a crutch for a grow than it is a benefit, because you're really not allowing the plant to express what it wants to, and that's really why we're all in this, is to see like where that can go and what potential that plant has. Yeah.
I think everybody needs to...
Just one last little bit to it. I think that Dorian makes an excellent point, which is, if you just think about the plant, I mean, ultimately it's a living being, just like anything else, right? It's a living organism, and if you were to feed anybody just a set diet of the nutrients that you need to survive, I doubt that makes a healthy human being, as opposed to feeding a whole food diet that's holistic, that includes, all the macros, all the micronutrients that you need, right? So, same thing, I think.
I just want to add one more thing. So why it's also important, like terpene profiles, flavonoids, esters, these things are like dynamic range, dynamic profile. So if we're looking at, like, say, the quality of music, right, and we look at an MP3 versus like analog record, the dynamic range is so much different. It's actually better in a record than an MP3, than digital. And it's the same thing with that profile. So, and you guys have run it before, like, well, now that they're testing for more, we could see like a sun-grown, let's say in New England, was 18 terpenes deep. Indoor may stop at 6 or 7. So what does that really mean? It's not just the flavor, it's not just the aroma, it's actually the type of effect, and then how long is it gonna last? And if you're looking for relief and you have high tolerance, then you want to have different dynamic in profiles and deeper and richer. Otherwise, if you're just sticking to the same, core 7 terpenes, you're only gonna modulate a certain effect every time. And so, like, to their point, it's beneficial to the plant, but it's also allowing the plant to express its full intent. And that's what we're doing this for. So I think when you see companies kind of shortcutting it for different reasons, again, a different type of conversation of the why, but there are certainly whys people grow biomass specifically for cannabinoids or THC. But in our particular world of extracts, things that are going in our lungs, I think this is extremely important conversation.
Super good answers, guys. I think everybody needs to write down the word exudate and look it up and get familiar with it, because it got brought up a couple times here, and I think it is very relevant to this conversation. All right, on to my next question. And this one could be a little bit sensitive, so nobody take anything too personal here. But do you think that organic rosin or organic cannabis products in general should cost more at the dispensary? Part 1, and then part 2 of the question is, does that mean that the organic raw material, meaning the fresh frozen material, should cost more as well to the extractor? Go ahead.
I'll let you guys start on this one. I have a dispensary, so I'll wait to the end.
So I think you got to look at time and place, right? I think right now in California, you're in a unique situation where people just got to get rid of shit. I think if we're looking forward, no one anywhere is able to produce like quality biomass as affordably as we can in California. So I think, that changes once we have more market opportunity and can look elsewhere. That being said, I mean, in other states that we operate, it would be a luxury, and I think it should be charged more. So I think it kind of depends on where you are.
So because it's more competitive in California and maybe there's more of a glut of product, you're saying that maybe it shouldn't cost more?
I don't think so, and I also think, like, at the end of the day, I mean, I've always come from the opportunity of, like, dabs for the people, pass on what you can, don't try to, like, get rich in the process.
Amen.
Yeah, and so I think, like, you can cultivate cheaper organically than any other methodology. You can get better quality, you can get better yields, like we're saying. So, in my opinion, you pass that on. Hopefully, in the future, we can get some sort of recognition, like some, accreditation or stepping up the clean green certification to people that are using those kinds of products. But I think at the end of the day, like, pass that on to the consumer.
Yeah, I actually have a more of a, I guess, a stronger opinion. I do think that organic products don't need to be more expensive. I think, in fact, it should be the standard because it's cheaper to grow organic than it is to grow with salts. And I mean, I know that it's more convenient to grow in an indoor space where you have all your, all your parameters under control if you have, like a typical 3-part nutrient or salts, whatever. But, the first year that we grew outdoor biomass for extraction, we, I still remember this because, like, we were counting every single dollar that we had, but we spent $10,000 on nutrients, and it was just nothing fancy. I mean, it was literally general hydroponics, and to grow 65 plants in like a 1/4 acre space, I mean, it took us $10,000 worth of nutrients. That year we processed some biomass for a buddy of mine called Dan, and Dan had this massive farm in Humboldt, and he was doing all organic nutrients, just doing compost teas to his plants. And one thing that struck me was how high his yields were, how good the quality of his resin was. And I immediately went to him and I said, hey, I'm interested in learning how to grow organically for biomass. Can you teach me? So our next season, we doubled our footprint, and we ended up paying like maybe about $2,000 all in for all of the ingredients that we needed to make compost teas for the season. So it ended up decreasing the cost, increasing our yields, increasing our quality. So I don't see why organic products should be more expensive. I think that, to Dorian's point, this is really all about being able to provide quality, not meds, but quality products to people that want to consume them, and we shouldn't be fucking, making them bend over backwards to get these quality products,
100%. I think more so with organics, we need the education behind it before we can set anything up. One of the biggest problems in our industry right now is there's no real qualitative scale or objective scale that rates cannabis. It's driven by social media, influencers, what have you right now. And so until that can be established more, value is all based on perception, as in most industries. What I do tell farmers, though, is it's kind of like growing Skittles or some strains that have a higher difficulty on it. There is a learning curve to it, but it increases your throughput value, where I can get you, returns a lot quicker, because once a consumer does try it and they understand the difference, they're going to be back a lot faster.
Yeah, so my 2 cents is I agree that it should not necessarily be more. That's in the short answer, but the long answer here is the East Coast versus the West Coast, and different states have different regulations, limitations, licensing, and resources. So the fact that California has a robust outdoor greenhouse 2-season system, everything we ever made here was always organic and outdoor. So it wasn't ever like processed indoor for rosin. It wasn't like a thing. We never did. We never once processed. Maybe one thing ever in 5 years was indoor. It was never indoor tops, because the cost of cultivation and regulations for just the flower itself. But being on the East Coast, I also start two retails that do not sell butane, CO2, RSO, distillate, fake terps. It's all live rosin, hash, temple balls, live rosin vape. Same thing with the infused pre-rolls. And so it gives me kind of a look at that. And I've always been somebody that tries to do adult use and tries to bring a product to market for consumers, for the experience, for less money. So for me personally, the mission is how do I curate a menu that has that in mind, but how do I do this for less? And so in our particular state, there's only one living soil indoor grower, maybe 2, that happens to be the highest 8th on the shelf, because they only grow like 180 pounds a month. You know what I mean? So the demand in the area, there is greenhouse growing. We did greenhouse for the last kind of runs. We set up like kind of a greenhouse, like controlled environment for resin and only for resin. And the goal is to bring the price down, not up, because you ultimately are also battling like value of money, economy, like totally different times. And I would say that in California, I'm not there anymore, but if there's less farmers because of regulation and more people got hammered, and there's less of really good biomass and it's organic and it's about demand, then it probably would go up. Like when I was here before, there was probably another 1,000 growers, and most people don't talk about like the policies that kind of, in my opinion, imploded and hurt California. The second they put distributors in place that took the farmer's product, the manufacturer's product, told them to go to the retail, told them to collect the taxes for the retail, and told them to collect the money for everyone else, that's who fucked everyone. That whole system and that policy that was put in place to have a middleman then charge 10% on your money and never pay anyone, that's why all of that crashed and imploded. But 4 years of choking out the industry could change things. And now I see less farmers. I see less really good inputs. And now you have a lot of people that have fled California that have that knowledge, that have gone to other states and other countries that are implementing that and then are trying to figure out the code. How do we get indoor, living soil, organic at the same yield and get it to a price point which is competitive, with large cultivation. However, that being said, there will always be a market for a $20 eighth. There will always be a market for a $20 eighth. There's no way around it. because somebody only has $20 fucking dollars. They want to get high, and that's all they got. So like we also have to also look at scalability. So like the scale of indoor organic at such scale to do 3,000 pounds a month to get to a $20 eighth isn't possible. So you just have a lot of dynamics and different things going on in different industries. But anyone that would tell you like that has the experience, there's no reason why you couldn't grow organic, and there's no reason why you couldn't grow organic for less. And if you're in the industry as long as we have been, and you actually care, you would want to educate everyone possible in this information and knowledge so that we could get to that. So at least in the craft sector of our market, we can say, hey, we're able to get organic products at this point. You know, I feel like we've done a pretty good job, you know, from that side. I've got a $40 rosin, I got a $60 rosin. I have a $25 rosin vape, I have a $45. Now they're starting to get value and premium within the solventless category. And as it gets more sophisticated and you have indoor and you have greenhouse, you'll see these markets, you know, change. And for years, everyone on the East Coast was blind. They thought they were smoking West Coast indoor. Those packs were all outdoor. And then they were like, wait a minute, I'm not smoking indoor? Well, I'm not paying that price. And that's what happened with New York. They're not gonna pay the price. And then lo and behold, it's actually organic that they were smoking the whole time. You know, so it's about education, like you said, education of the consumer, and then just being transparent if you are a retailer. Like you need to tell them, is that hand trim living soil organic, or is that machine trim scalable flower? You know, and own it.
That pretty much leads right up perfectly to my next question. How does your company educate your consumers about organic cannabis products, and do you also promote organic practices in your marketing campaigns or on your packaging?
Well, we're not allowed to use that word in our industry, so.
True. Let me vary that.
Yeah, we get caught. You can say the process is organic, organically grown without like certifications. I think that's something that our industry definitely lacks, and it takes some individuals to like allow us to get certification and like actually get to that next level. Maybe when there's a different schedule going on. But I think transparency for us, it's always transparency. This is indoor. This is cocoa. This is like, you know, a value or a premium or a top shelf. I mean, for us in our store, the way we do it is just transparency. I think people have a hard time with it, and I think that should translate to the price point. You know, be transparent, price accordingly, and you know, for us, it's always been about education, explaining whether it's the process, the devices, how it came from. But that's what we do in our store. We spotlight the growers, and we literally say, this is what it is. Don't try to sugarcoat it. It's machine trim. I like that. It's machine trim smalls. It's $20 an eighth. Yeah. You know what you're getting into. If you want.
I think that correlates to the price too, because I mean, let's face it. If there's a farm that's like 300 acres and they're putting out crazy amounts of product, then they're probably not going to be that top shelf. But if there's some guy who's really focused and he really loves what he does and he puts every bit of love that he has in his whole body into it, I personally feel like that guy does deserve an extra dime because he went the extra mile. I do see what everybody says about trying to like keep it affordable to the people, but it's just like anything else in life. You get what you pay for, and if you want something that's specialized, that has that special, you know, love put into it, then, you know, I'm personally willing to pay a little bit more, not just in cannabis, but for anything in life. So that's my opinion on that. Sorry to interrupt you guys' question.
No, I just to add to that, in Boston itself, we see 500-600 people a day in Blue River stores, and I know the buying patterns, and having a 20, a 25, a 30, a 35, a 40, a $45 eighth, living soil, hand trim indoor, like high pressure sodium in beds, it tops out at 45 for us. It could be 55, but we don't sell it for more than 45. But when it's there, it flies. Right. And like people pay for it. Yeah. So I wouldn't, like, I see the percentages, and I would say that the $20 eighth, the $25 eighth doesn't dominate the sales of flower. when you have all of it there. And that's what I've done and been transparent. You'd be surprised that people do actually want to pay for quality. And so I just follow the trend and you stock accordingly, but I have 75% of quality flower versus like okay flower, you know, but everyone,
The budget.
the budget, you just have to be honest with it. And so it's just, I think people do want it. I think craft ultimately will win. I think if you're trying to compete with the budget, you better have like billions of dollars and be like a very powerful company to understand the metrics of that, because you're trying to grow indoor pounds for like 350. Like that's where you got to be to even make money. $400. That's one direction. But like you're saying, I do personally think that like somehow, I think through the flower sales and pre-rolls, like we sell the top end pre-roll at $12. They do get extra money. Like they can wholesale an eighth for 21 or 22 still, you know, and so we definitely pay more for it. It's the consumer driving it. Will the consumer pay it? I just don't think consumers want to pay past $45 an eighth, no matter what. So we do that because we don't double it up. We just mark it up a little bit and move it along. Yeah.
You guys want to touch on that, the question about the what you put on your packaging?
Yeah, I mean, we don't explicitly list it on the packaging, but all of our biomass is organically grown pretty much. In California, I mean, everything we grow is organic, and then in New York, we've pretty much taken the same regimen there. New York soil is actually really high in organic material, so it works really well with an organic regimen. So much so that actually this season, you know, we pretty much gave our plants just water. And they, you know, we grew 50,000 pounds in like 4 acres. So, I mean, we're pretty much committed to just being 100% organic with our products.
Yeah, we're looking for a way to implement living soil and more of that educational pieces on our packaging right now. But for right now, we are doing like social media campaigns and little bits to try to further that point along so people can understand. Part of the problem is that living soil and that type of terminology is getting diluted because people have caught on in the traditional markets and are starting to use that as a selling point. And so again, like these guys mentioned earlier, until we get a better certification that actually can start to mean something, we're in this little gray period right now.
Yeah, I think, you know, for us, we've always taken the approach that we're only as good as our farmers. I think, you know, as an extractor and being in this realm, like you're just taking what's already there and changing it to a different form factor, you know, and if your tech is right and everything else is good, like it's really a reflection of the cultivation. So we've always just vetted our partner farmers. We've always put the cultivator on every package. And that hopefully allows, you know, the consumer to have a little bit of insight if they want to go check out their social media and see how they're doing things. And then obviously, you know, that's in California. In Maryland, it's been really difficult. A lot of, you know, large multi-million-dollar facilities that are very regimented in when they harvest and their SOPs on their nutrients. So it's been a little harder to get them to go the way we want, but.
Good answers, guys. I have a bunch more quick questions, but I see the time is ticking, so I'm going to ask one more, and then we'll wrap it up. This one's there's been a lot of great information shared, but this one's a little bit more personal, and kind of think of it as like if you were talking to a younger version of yourself, and you were about to enter the concentrate genre of our industry. What would you tell yourself to do? And what would you tell yourself to avoid?
You go first on that one.
So honestly, I mean, I was in that very same situation. Like I said, I went to school for organic agriculture. I had an indoor grow, but I was always scared to deploy the knowledge that I had from school into that because I just needed it to work. I was dependent on the revenue. There was like, you know, a recipe that worked. And I was actually working at a hydroponics store and met Brian and, you know, my other friend Bam, and they were doing just like the best weed I'd seen, and it was indoor, and I just kind of saw the light. So I think it just takes these kinds of conversations and the people that are doing it right to go show people what they're doing and show them the difference. Because at the end of the day, like, if you're a connoisseur and you're constantly trying to find the next best thing, you're going to do everything you can to pursue that and make sure that every jar you put out has that like love and passion in it. So I think that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think if I could go back, be objective and stick to your guns. It's easy to get lost in the marketing power of cannabis, but your palate knows best. And for us, one of the things that I love what Dorian always preaches is we're only as good as the farm. We're only as good as the resin we come from, and it's so true. And so for me, it's, be objective, attention to detail, customer service, and be passionate. You're in this industry for a reason.
Great answer, Mark.
I guess if I could go back, I'd tell myself to get a hair straightener in 2013. No, I honestly do wish that I had gotten into Solventless sooner in my extraction career. We started off doing BHO in 2013, and it built up a good knowledge base for learning how to work with concentrates, so I'm thankful for that. But I think after having deep experience both on the hydrocarbon side and on the solventless side, I wish that I had gotten into it sooner. So I guess that's, if I could go back, I would do that.
Better late than never, Alex.
I started really young, like 14, 16. I don't know if I would tell myself to do anything differently, because I was like all heart all the time and very passionate about the plant. I would say that if I had some hindsight, I would try to warn myself and get it ingrained in my head that you can't trust politicians and don't trust the fucking IRS. Those are two things I would say to myself in preparation. There's been good and bad in different things I've done, but I've always gone all in 150% heart towards something, R&D or different things in the goodness of trying to help people and move the plant forward. But in that, I disregarded how evil the government can be. And so I'm targeted that throughout my whole career. So I would say don't trust the IRS, don't trust the government. They don't have your back.
Fuck the police.
So sometimes they work for you, though. Depends on where you're at, if you're paying the bills and taxes. But I would say that the federal government, in its sense, more so than states, because the state police and some of the state government agencies are fine now with it. But like until it's decriminalized, they have their thumb on you, no matter what you do. If you rise up too much, trust me, they're gonna fucking pull you down. They're gonna find a way to cancel you, debank you, get rid of you. And that's what's happened to me the whole time, every time, in any situation. They find ways to ruin your life if you try to do too good. So that would be my advice. And still today, don't think you can go along doing your everyday life without them wanting to, like, at any point, they can use the laws that are barely laws, whether business, 280E laws, whatever tax laws, they can just apply because we don't have any guidance. We have no real rules, nothing set in concrete. We may have some constitutional changes for medical and some things at state levels, but the federal level is fucked. So that's what I would tell myself.
Awesome. Well, I think we've went a little over on our time. I know there's a next group coming up. Thank you all so much for participating in the Voice of the Plant panel series. I'm Organic Brian. You can find me on Instagram at Organic Brian. I got some business cards on me if you want to get a hold of me. Everybody shout out where you can be reached on your social media or email addresses or anything. And if anybody wants to get a hold of any of these guys, they're awesome, and we're all down to help move this cause and make things better. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Oh yeah, don't trust Instagram either. So I don't have Instagram anymore. I just have a personal Instagram, Verzura 2. Blue River's been attacked 50 times, so I don't know if I can go through it again.
Yeah, same. Somewhat. Our company Instagram is pretty much shadow banned. So, but it's at critical.us. My personal is at Terpy Poppy. And just a quick shout out with Sambo Creek, a company that we work with equipment. We released in the show yesterday a membrane filter for BHO that's basically going to hopefully remove CRC from the industry, which is a goal of mine. We want to get rid of CRC completely. If you guys want to come check it out, we're giving away some cartridges that may or may not have some THC in them. But come by and I'll give you one if you guys want to try it out.
Come on. Our account just got banned, but you can find me at kalya.marc, M-A-R-C. Shoot me a DM. If you guys ever find yourself out in Santa Rosa wine country, stop on by the lab at Cannabis. Come take some dabs, hang out.
We are also shadow banned, but it's Beezle Brands. You got to type into the whole thing or you won't find it. And yeah, reach out if you guys need anything.
Fuck Instagram.
I guess everyone's kind of
Yes.
anti-Instagram right now, but it is a good way to find people. And if anybody needs to get a hold of these guys, get a hold of me. I'll put you in touch. Thanks, everybody.